hot, it's compact, and it's exclusive to CNB, the GLA from Mercedes-Benz. We're staying SUV crazy. We've got the facelift of the BMW X3, also exclusive. And the Renault Duster has a 4x4 version now. That's coming up too. Hi folks, and welcome to CNB. I'm Siddharth Vinayak Patankar. Now we've been promising you lots of SUVs on the program the next few weeks, and we're going to deliver on that promise. As you've seen from that little glimpse at the start of the show, we're going to start off big with those nice exclusives. But you're wondering, hang on a second, he's talking about SUVs, why is he standing next to a coupe and a sedan? Well, we're also going to be taking you onto a bit of a journey over the next few weeks, folks. One that takes you into the world of manufacturing for Mercedes-Benz. And of course, when you think of this brand, traditionally it's cars like the S-Class that instantly spring to mind, which is why we're starting our journey here in Sindelfingen, which is where Mercedes-Benz has its biggest plant, and cars like the E-Class, the S-Class, they all roll out from here. 500,000 unit annual production capacity, but we're going to go away from all of this and we're going to talk, of course, about SUVs. And so, which is why my journey will begin with this vehicle. It's the latest from Mercedes-Benz. It's the compact SUV that many of you are waiting for, and we've got all the exclusive details on the GLA. As the entry premium segment begins to open up big time in India, it's great to see not just more and more new products driving in, but also those that are very well engineered and better suited to our market than ever before. The Mercedes-Benz GLA will drive into the market in October and will join what's now looking like a formidable segment, comprising a wide array of vehicles that span hatchbacks, sedans, crossovers and SUVs. So what's the GLA all about? Based on Daimler's MFA platform, the car shares its underpinnings and several components with its siblings, the A, B and CLA class of vehicles. The styling is rather aggressive and yet has a prettier form than the testosterone-fueled looks of the A class or CLA. The roof rails and rear fenders are what really separate this from the station wagon-like feel that the BMW X1 or even the Volvo V40 exude. The Center of Excellence is sort of a brand shrine for Mercedes-Benz, which is why you don't just have this car here with me, but you've got all these other cars that are also lined up here today. And it is, of course, in Sindelfingen, which is where, like I said, you've got the biggest plant. But today, we're going to go on that manufacturing journey besides showing you this car. So we're going to start off by driving to Rastatt. That's where the GLA is manufactured. And it's about, well, a couple of hours from here. So let's get going on that drive. Before we get going though, I want to quickly talk about the styling. Now, in the face is where you see that nice aggressive new family look that Mercedes-Benz is getting such great reviews for the world over. The GLA carries that through. You know, it doesn't really try and be this really bumped up tall SUV. I mean, look how short it is, but the roof rails and the overall shape and appeal, still very SUV-like. There's a little rise here in this chrome line that you see on the waistline, and that's different to the A and the B and the CLA, because in those cars, including the new C-Class, that's almost like a parabolic drop. Here you see that there's a rising line. That gives it again a different SUV kind of a character. There's a lot of muscle here, and that blends beautifully into this really wide look at the rear. The tail light to me is perhaps the nicest, sweetest part of the design, very attractive. And you've got this chrome strip which again enhances the width at the back, makes the car look really planted. Inside the cabin is where the premium brigade scores over the other mass compact offerings, and Mercedes-Benz in particular has stepped up its game when it comes to cabin finish. The car with me has a light poplar wood treatment which complements the black plastics and surprisingly works with all the metal inserts that the dash carries. Of course, we will wait to see what trims come into India. The rest of the package, including the command system, the climate control, sunroof, instruments, all of that very much like the A-Class. The start-stop system is also standard. The boot isn't generous, but I was still surprised by its rather ample 481-litre volume. Now, the handling isn't soft by any means, but I would have still liked it to be a little bit stiffer, more German in that sense. In India, buyers are going to like this. It's just the right kind of comfort setting, I think, that people in India like. The car has a very car-like feel to the drive, and what I like is that, you know, the engineers haven't tried to unnaturally just give you a sense of driving an SUV by just bumping it up or making the overall suspension setting more SUV-like. It's good that it feels like a car because it's very comfortable and very easy to drive. The GLA is sprightly, quick, and hugs the road well. Please do make room for the fact that I had the 4MATIC, Mercedes speak for all-wheel drive, that sends as much as 50% of the torque to the rear wheels when needed. Now, of course, make no mistake, the suspension setup on a car like this will definitely be different to, let's say, the A-Class or even the CLA. But having said that, it is the car-like feel, handling and otherwise, that you get from a compact SUV like this one that makes it popular. And that's what's catching on the world over, and in India in particular, cars like the Q3 and of course this car, the GLA, become even more relevant because they're compact, they're more affordable, and yet they let you be premium and slightly more raised from the ground than a hatch or a sedan will. But when you compare to the Q3, while I liked that character, the GLA has a smaller feel, especially when you're inside the car. It's not a roomy or airy cabin, but one that feels compact and right. Now, we're not going to get the potent engines that the GLA is available with here in Europe. Nope, it's going to be the slightly more boring engines, I'm afraid. Similar strategy to what you saw with the A and the B class. Of course, it's done for a reason so that the pricing is more competitive, but it will certainly not quite be the car that I'm getting to drive today in terms of power, and also the fact that, by the way, this is the 4MATIC, and in India we'll probably just get the front wheel drives. So while the GLA 250 I had has a 2-litre 208 bhp engine, we will get the GLA 200 twins, but with a special India configuration, so they're not the same engines or nomenclature as the ones here in Germany. So let's look at the petrol first, and it's the same 2-litre unit but with an output of 181 bhp, mated to the 7G dual clutch gearbox. And the diesel GLA 200 CDI will sport a 2.1-litre unit with 134 bhp of power, and no, we won't get the optional 6-speed manual transmission. That diesel unit though will also punch out 300 Nm of peak torque, which is fun for a car this size. So after my quick drive across the Baden-Württemberg countryside, I was at the town of Rastatt at the Mercedes-Benz factory there. Though the Rastatt plant has been around since 1992, it is since 1997 that it's become the mother plant for the compact cars from the start. It was expanded and upgraded in 2009 with an investment of $1.2 billion to accommodate the new MFA platform. The Rastatt plant has 2 assembly lines. One produces the A and B class, while the second produces the A and of course the GLA. You can tell from the headlamp configuration of that AMG version of the GLA, that car is probably heading to the United States. Now, when you talk about this platform on which the GLA, the CLA, the A and the B are based, it's called MFA, or the Mercedes Front Wheel Architecture Platform, and its production is divided between here in Rastatt and also the Kecskemét plant in Hungary. Now, in Hungary is where the B and the CLA are made. Here, of course, you have the B class and the A class being made in the second production hall. The one we're in is primarily for the GLA and A class. Now, I can tell you that a lot of the A class production was moved to the other hall once the B class was moved to Hungary as well, simply because there's huge global demand for the GLA, and so the production of the GLA has now gone up as well. Total overall production here at Rastatt stands at about 300,000 units. Last year, they managed to make 286,000. I can tell you, in 2014, that production number is likely to be much higher. It is always fun being inside a car plant. But here it was also good to see the buzz on the shop floor, brisk production cycles and a wide variety of variants being produced together on both the A and GLA classes, and plenty of AMGs too. Recently, Mercedes-Benz India increased its own capacity for its assembly plant in Chakan to 20,000 units annually. The larger plan there is to assemble the A, the B, the CLA and the GLA, and none of those kits are freely available because remember, there is a huge global demand for these models as well. Eventually, when that does happen, of course, those kits will come from here for the GLA as well as the A class and perhaps the B class as well. But until then, you will of course get CBU or fully built units, which will also come from here in Rashta. Do you think that at the start of this project, had you already identified that it's going to be the GLA that's going to become a really key or a very important member of this family, or are you happy to see this from the market?
I would say not from the very beginning, but during development. So I would say half time we realized that when we thought, for instance, in the beginning, because this was our history, that A and B class will be key. What would be the new A class coming from the old A class? Or we thought it might be the most important question, how is old and new B class? How are they compared and perceived by customers? I would say halfway we realized that it is the other models which are making it, because they are new. A and B class are known, and it was the transition to new A and B class, but halfway I would say we realized that it's other models that make it.
So now you know where the new GLA comes from, how it is made and how it drives. The car is hotly anticipated and we were super excited to bring it to you on the show today. Do you think the GLA will excite our market? And would you want one? Share your thoughts with us on facebook.com/CNB show or with me on Twitter @Sid Patankar. Right, so that was our big exclusive on the Mercedes-Benz GLA. Please react to that story, and you know what, you've also got some options to win some cool merchandise from us, and there's a bit of a contest that's running on my Twitter page. So go ahead and send me a few tweets there, log on to Twitter, and maybe you could win yourself some of that stuff as well. And in fact, we will continue with this Mercedes-Benz story because just like we took you to Rashta today, we'll take you to the other SUV manufacturing locations over the next few weeks. So that's something to look forward to as we continue with SUVs right through the month. Now, as you can see, I'm leaning on an SUV here as well, and we're still in Germany. There is something exciting to show you. For that, you need to come back after a short break. Global unveil here in Stockholm points to a new direction for the company. Welcome back to CNB. So the car is the BMW X3. This is the facelifted version of the car. It is also exclusive to you, by the way, and we've got all the details for you now on what's turning into a nice little SUV special for you on the program today. The second generation of the X3, called F25 internally, made its debut in 2010. We drove that car from Frankfurt to Munich in its 30D and 20D avatars. Fast forward to today and we have the facelifted car with us outside of Munich in the Bavarian countryside. The rear has been tweaked ever so slightly, so at first glance you probably won't be able to tell that, and you still know of course that it's an X3. That's perhaps pretty much the point, because when you think about BMW facelifts, for the last few years we've seen that,
is almost intentional not to go too far away from what that model was always about in terms of design. So the guys at BMW Design in Munich, I like to believe, very intentionally maintain the essence, the integrity, and the originality in many ways of that first design, because they don't want the model to look substantially different. So you won't see anything that screams redesign. It's very subtle. First glance, you almost have to say, are you sure that's a facelifted version? Well, the thing that is new is the headlamp styling, because you got this eyebrow on top, some people like to call it that, and it now meets the front grille. It's been extended. You saw the same sort of design in the X5, so it's a bit of a SUV characteristic now, or a family look that's going to creep in. The new X6, which comes out later this year, will probably carry that forward as well. The grille, just as bold as ever, also has a little notch here which kind of complements that strip coming in and meeting the front grille. Looks a little extended, little stretched. The bumper was really heavy, and this was sort of similar to what the sport version had. I'm glad to see that it's becoming the stock treatment, because it adds a little bit of a sporty element and also makes the car look less heavy up front, looks a little more agile.
On the inside, the color palette and materials have been tweaked. I do like the new seats as they are more attractive and more comfortable too. In India, the car is now available in a new X-Line trim that includes matte aluminium inserts in the bumpers, an X-Line grille and exhaust, and a sporty leather steering wheel, amongst other things. But the bigger changes are invisible and are under the hood.
Now the great news is that the car maintains its nice sporty driving dynamic, which was something that I really liked about this new generation when it first came out. That is still intact. The other bit of news you need to know, all the engines have been severely updated. Let's take a look at the details on the diesels which matter to us.
In India, BMW has decided to ditch the 30D engine, and now both variants get only the 2-litre diesel. The reworked engine belts out 190 bhp and peak torque kicks in at 1750 rpm, which is great and offers good response through the 8-speed gear shift. The prices for the car now: the X-Drive 20D Expedition is priced at 44,90,000 and the X-Drive 20D X-Line at 49,90,000 rupees ex-showroom India.
It isn't just BMW that's offering something new on the existing X3. There's also something new on the Renault Duster. Yes, another SUV, and Ameya Naik was in Lavasa to bring you this story.
Even though the Fluence and Koleos were slow starters, the Duster is what's really made Renault a brand to contend with in India since 2012. And now with Duster sales crossing the 1 lakh mark, it was time for something new on the model line, wasn't it? After making us wait for 2 years for it, we finally get the 4-wheel drive Duster, or as the company prefers, the Duster AWD. The car gets an electronically controlled all-wheel drive system, which Renault calls iDrive technology. There are 3 modes on the all-wheel drive selector knob: 2-wheel drive, auto and lock. While 2WD keeps it front-wheel driven, auto sends up part of the power to the rear wheels when the system detects that the front wheels are losing traction. Lock, on the other hand, keeps the hardware in 4x4 mode for up to 60 km per hour, after which it shifts back to auto mode. Renault says it's shortened the gear ratios on the 4x4, especially the first gear, which gives the Duster a significant advantage. And you realize how important this is when you take the car off-road, and yes, it is now easier to crawl down steep slopes. And then there's the stability program and the anti-skid resistance that help get you out of slippery conditions. The track at Lavasa was perfect to see just how capable the Duster AWD is. There was mud covered with a dense layer of grass. The car rides on 215/65 R16 MRF Wanderer tires, and boy, they really had their work cut out for them. Even though you slide around a bit, there's absolutely no problem getting out of the rut. There's enough power at your disposal too, all 109 bhp at that.
I'm back from taking the Duster AWD on an off-road track, and look at me. I'm all clean as an office-going guy at 9 in the morning. Well, The Duster is dirty, but that does not mean we don't have a smile on our faces.
The car's exteriors are largely unchanged, barring the anthracite alloy wheels, the darkened headlamp cluster and the matte black B-pillars. On the inside, however, there are a bunch of changes, like a new 3-pod instrument cluster that features an instant fuel consumption meter. There's also a new 3-spoke steering wheel, dual-tone grey and red seats with a new beehive design, and some soft-touch plastics on the upper portion of the new dual-tone black and grey dashboard. The Duster all-wheel drive will arrive in India around the festive season and is likely to cost about 75,000 rupees more than the current top-end variant of the Duster. The rebadging between Renault and Nissan will mean that we'll also see a Terrano in the all-wheel drive avatar by next year. Expect Nissan to take the lead, however, with a CVT Terrano, but again, that's at least a year away, if not more.
To find out what SUV and what plant we're going to take you to next week, remember to tune in to CNB next week as well. And with that, I will say off we the Zen. Please remember to wear your seatbelts, please wear your helmets, please react to what you've seen on the program today, the big exclusives we've brought you.